Welcome to Excel.
Welcome back to Accelerate Your Dental Practice. Malika and I are here today to share a little bit about dental office or dental practice teams. And by teams, we're not talking just about your hygienist or your assistant or your front office person, office manager. We're really talking about setting yourself up with a team of experts that will support you and really understand the nuances of dentistry. And some of those team members will include like your CPA, your marketing agency, your consultant, your IT company. So we want to talk a little bit today about the importance of having these people, that are experts in their field, but also have a really good understanding of dentistry, because we all know we work in dentistry. Dentistry is very quirky. Like, it's not like other industries. Whenever I work with somebody, training them in a dental office that has not worked with dentistry, they're always like, what? Like, this doesn't make sense. Dental insurance? Like, why do they do that? Or why do you guys do this way? And I'm just like, I don't know. Dentistry is just quirky. So Malika and I have some IT things that we want to start off with, especially right now with everybody having to go through the whole Windows 11 debacle. So I'm sure you can all feel our pain in some way, shape, or form when it comes to IT.
Yeah, and it's like you need to make sure you have it. I don't mean Michelle and we talked about this, but making sure they know dental. I have a problem when my client tells me my IT company is my friend's neighbor that works full time in a corporate company and is so kind to help me out when I need it. That's great. I'm sure you're saving money. But as Michelle said, dentistry's different, guys. And especially when it comes to the security of your practice and HIPAA, and I can go down the line of what could happen if they don't know what they're doing and they're not accessible. That means that, God forbid, you're shut down for a day or two. And you want to make sure you have somebody that understands dentistry, understands the softwares, cloud or desktop, doesn't matter. They need to understand that if you're server-based open dental, to know what to do if a vendor wants to have access. And it could be anything from dental intel to mango phones. It could be anything. But if they can't understand that, that itself is a delay. And I had situations where a vendor will tell me, Malika, their IT company didn't even know what we are. So I'm a little concerned. I'm giving you a heads up. I just want to let you know this. Please, please don't cut corners when it comes to IT, because IT is I joke and say, I don't know IT. If something goes wrong, I need my IT guy to do stuff for me. It should be the same for you guys. Unless your spouse is IT and you want to put it in their hand to do it, fine. But they should also understand the consequences of what could happen to the data in your software if you get hacked. Because hacking is, I'm sure, Michelle, you can go on to this about this, but I've had so many offices in the past 2 years get hacked. Like 4 totals, and it's the most I've seen since I've been in dentistry 30.
It's scary now, right? And that's why HIPAA is coming out with that new cybersecurity rule, which I thought was supposed to roll out in October, but it's HIPAA, so
Yeah, it's a little
who knows when
delayed.
it'll actually be there, but it's huge. So when you're vetting IT companies, I know it is a big investment. I completely understand that. You don't necessarily have to have a local company. If you have one and they have a great reputation in the dental industry, great. Like, that's a bonus, right? Because they can come on site. But I know some of the bigger companies like Legend and Dark Horse, and some of them, like, they're pretty good. They have a good reputation, but they're all over the country, right? But they know dentistry so well that they can log in, and help you remotely. And if they have to come on site, they come on site. One thing that I've noticed a lot that's not happening is when you have an IT company, there's two things. You want to make sure they are a business associate. You need a business associate agreement, because you're liable and they're liable, right? So they have to show you that they're protecting everything, right? According to HIPAA security rule. 2, they have to conduct, in conjunction with you in the practice, the risk assessment, the security risk assessment on your software. And not just your software, that also includes the security risk in the practice, alarm system, security cameras, all of that stuff. It is a major part of HIPAA. And if you want to be protected, if you ever get hacked, like Malika was saying, she's seeing more and more of, if you don't have these things in place, big fines coming your way. Big fines.
Camera to security camera, guys, have it. It's for many reasons. I have seen it come into play and be helpful, from a patient making an accusation to a team member doing what they're not supposed to do. It's just good. Obviously, just be careful. Every state's different. You want to make sure if you're recording the voice, you legally can do that. Do not record, employee voices if you're not supposed to, or if, there has to be a consent. I mean, that's a deeper conversation, but please make sure you have that. You check your state laws, and usually the IT company that knows what's going on will also advise you on that and will tell you what you can and cannot do. But I've seen that cameras come into play from, UPS delivery guys stealing stuff from the back room of an office when they're delivering boxes, to an employee stealing from another employee, employees stealing from the office. I mean, it's really helpful. And also for safety reasons too. So I definitely think the startups that work with me know this. I'm like, on the checklist, do you have a security camera? Because that's so important to have. And obviously you want to make sure you have access to it. Don't just put it up there and not have access to it. And when you need it, you're like, I don't even know how to log in to see what's going on. And I've seen that too. But I think that's huge. Like and I'm kind of emphasizing on this, but I feel like more than ever, I feel like that's been really helpful with my clients when they need to check something. And it doesn't cost that much money either.
You don't need a big fancy, system, but you need something. I've seen, it's funny how you say the UPS guy. I used to see the cleaning people walking out with like toilet paper and trash bags and like taking stuff from the office. I don't even know, 5-6 years ago, had a startup. On day 2, the doctor was all concerned because their numbers weren't matching. They're like, our deposit should match, right? What we have. And when they went back and looked on the security camera, they actually saw their front office person accept cash from someone, put half of the cash in the cash box, and they opened the bottom drawer right next to the front desk and put the other half in her purse. So like, don't allow purses at the front desk, first of all.
But the camera caught that.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So it's really there to protect you, to protect the practice. But if you look at the HIPAA security rule, like, it is one of the things that is a requirement in there. But obviously make sure, like Malika said, check with your state, because every state is different. Some you can record voice, some you can't. Some you might have to put a sign in the window, like even letting the patients know, like this, video surveillance. So just make sure you do your due diligence on checking that out. But that is a super important piece of, like, IT is part of that. And I don't want you to set yourself up like this is your practice, your investment. Equipment is expensive. You're hiring people that you hope you can trust. But you never know when somebody's going through something in their life. So you need to protect your practice.
100%. And I think I say this all the time, like, you have options when picking these partnerships. You want to make sure it's one that fits you well. You get to, and I'm sure Michelle says this to my startups, I'm like, I'm a part of that journey. Thank you for picking me, because I know this is something that you don't forget. Just like you pick your CPA, your attorney, your broker, everybody is part of that journey, and you vet them out. And I hope you vet them out and just don't pick somebody because you're like, oh, because they're $300 a month cheaper, I'm just going to go with them. Do your due diligence and make sure that IT company is somebody that checks off all the boxes that fits for dentistry. Because trust me, if you don't, you will. And I've had clients tell me, I know, Malika, don't tell me you had told me that I've never heard of them. Are you sure this is somebody you want to work with? Because in the end, sometimes you end up sadly paying double to fix the problem or undo an error that a company did for you because they were not the right fit for your business.
And with dentistry, we all know, like, if things go down, right? it's like you can't take x-rays, you can't scan anybody, you're not able to communicate with your patients. Like 1 hour being down is thousands and thousands of dollars lost for your production. So you want to make sure you have somebody that understands that and that you have a good relationship with, because I do know many offices, in order to save costs, don't keep their IT company on like a retainer. They just call them and pay when they need it. The IT company is there and they're supposed to be helping, like ensuring your cloud backup. Like you should be backing up to the cloud if you have a server based, in addition to maybe a second way, on the server, but also like checking that the backups are successful. I've had 2 offices that I can think of that crashed and lost everything. We were able to retrieve something, but when they went back and looked, they hadn't had a successful backup in over a month. So they lost a lot of data, which meant like they were retaking x-rays for people. Like they didn't know what patients were coming in when. So the schedule was all a mess. Like those things are really important. So even if you have an IT company, like you also have to be checking to make sure that your backups are successful, like doing spot checks yourself. It's not a set it and forget it type of thing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I think that applies to other partnerships too. Like CPA guys, having a CPA that at least understands the KPIs of a dental practice. That's super important. And sometimes I start with reviewing a P&L for a client, and I'm like, what is all this? It doesn't even match. And it's because the CPA they have is someone that doesn't understand these KPIs, doesn't put things in the right buckets. And then you end up having to hire somebody else to clean up your books or look at those numbers. So please, I'm not asking you to work with a big, like, dental CPA. Like you can find ones that are maybe local to you, that if you want local, that still does dentistry. Or yes, the bigger ones like Kane Waters. I know a lot of my clients work with Kane Waters. Those are great too. I always say like just at least have somebody that's in that arena and has exposure to at least 10, 15 dental practices to understand those numbers. Because as Michelle said in the beginning, dentistry is quirky, it's different. And the person who does those numbers for you needs to understand where it goes where, like you as the officer, how you get paid, your associates, your temps. Like at an office where I was looking at their P&L and I was like, why is your salary $900,000 a year? They had put all the hygienists into that bucket and the associate. And I was like, this doesn't even make sense. Are you really taking this much money home? Like, what are you doing with your money?
Right. And if you look at that from a tax standpoint,
Can you
and they
imagine?
looked
Yeah.
at that as his real income, oh my gosh.
And the reason the conversation even started was that, and he's always like, share my story. And that's why I'm bringing it up. He's like, I don't know why I'm paying so much taxes. I think I need to change my CPA. And I was like, let me look at your number. And immediately within the first 5 minutes, I'm like, why is your salary 900K? He's like, I don't take 900K home. I only take 120K home, like as my set thing. And I was like, this is what, I mean, right there, we knew what the problem was. And the CPA, super family CPA that's been doing the parents' taxes, that's wonderful. But the poor guy that had never done dental, and he was the first dentist that he was doing his accounting for. So that's why I think like every one of those team members, which really are team members to you, they need to understand dentistry when doing your numbers, when they're doing your IT, because that makes a huge difference in your bottom line of, because it's all in the end, you're going to sell your practice, bring a partner in. If those numbers don't make sense, it could end up messing up with your net collection and what you take home and what you pay out, as Michelle just said, for the IRS. I mean, all of that adds up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's important to be meeting with them regularly. Like
Yes.
you want a CPA that's not just there to do your taxes. Like I know plenty of CPAs that send like monthly reports to the clients. Like here's your numbers. Here's how you measure to like the industry. I also know ones that like will meet either monthly or quarterly with their client to kind of talk about cash flow and like, where they are. Like, can you take more money for yourself? Like, for tax purposes, do you need to buy more equipment this year or should you wait until next year? So you should have a CPA that's willing to meet with you several times throughout the year. I feel the same thing for a IT company. too. Like the IT company should be really invested in looking at like how many computers that do you have there? Like which ones are going to need to be switched out soon? So like you can start budgeting for that too, right? Because we all know like unless you're starting up a practice, like, okay, so we bought all these computers in October of 2025. But as your practice is open longer, right, your computers are all over the place in terms of age most of the time, right? So the IT company should be helping you look at that and giving you the heads up like, hey, you're probably going to need a new server in the next year. So budget for that. Because the last thing you want is that server going down. You want to be ahead of it. In dentistry, we all tend to be a little bit reactive instead of proactive.
Mm-hmm.
I like to sit down with my clients at the end of the year. Like it's the middle of October now. So I'm starting to line up my end of the year strategy planning calls with my clients and being like, okay, let's look at everything. Like, how's your compressor? Like, are we looking at like maybe replacing some big equipment next year? Or what has the IT company said about your computers? Like, what are we going to have to replace there? Do we need to add? Are you adding an operatory? Do we need to add more equipment there? Instead of being like, oh my gosh, I had 3 computers go down and now I need a server. And where am I going to get $15,000? So I think it's really important to have the right people that know this stuff. They can anticipate it. Kind of like you probably do this too, Malika. I tell all of my especially my startups, I know exactly what's going to happen in your practice in the first 12 months. I know. However, it happens at slightly different time for everybody, but I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. If I wrote it on a piece of paper today, at the end of 12 months, I'd be like, happened, right? We've just done so many of them. So that's what you want is somebody who can anticipate your needs, just like you expect your dental assistant to anticipate what you're going to need during that procedure. That's the kind of expert team you want around you.
100%. 100%. And I think in piggyback to the IT, which somehow ways is relatable because it ends up being on in the internet, is your website. Potentially is linked to your email. All of those play hand in hand. So you want to make sure you are working with a marketing company that is reputable. I feel like marketing is really probably one of the hardest, if you ask me, because you have so many choices. And I feel like social media, you ask in one of these groups and you get like 20 options. And I know it's hard. And honestly, even for me and for those that have worked with me, know I usually give them 3, 4 to look into. Because I also feel like it's personality related and vision related. Some people want to release aesthetic and want to have beautiful photos and videos. And there's marketing companies that do that, where others is all important for them that in the back end, it's doing what it needs to do to pull the patients in, and they don't care overall what the website looks like as long as it checks off the boxes for it to be functionable enough to do that. You can spend as much as 4 or 5K to as much as 35, 40K on a website. But I just say when you pick one that is at least known. Ask to talk to other practices to make sure they're reputable. I definitely think you should do your homework. But at the same time, because if they're not reputable and they have not been in dentistry, or you ended up paying $1,000 for a website, which I just had a client tell me this, that I would start working with. Like, oh, my website was only $1,000, and then I look at their stuff and I look at the way the communication is. I'm like, and it's like, and I asked, I said, how many patients have you got so far from your website? It's like 0, nothing. Okay, that's not good. And at the same time, I click on your website, and then there's so many misspellings on your website. You get what you pay for. Make sure you're doing that, because that is security wise, connected to what funnels through your email. Because if your email is linked to your website or through GoDaddy or whatever way you're doing it, hacking can also happen to your email of the way the security is. Cut corners and get a weird email and then wonder why there's all this spam happens or hacking happens. This all really, because the minute somebody from your team clicks on something through your email and your email was not secure, that's how IT has to get involved, because there's a security breach that happened in your practice.
Yeah. So many things to think about. Like, I talk to a lot of dentists every day. You do too, Malika. And they're always like, I really just wish I could do my dentistry and not have to worry about all of this. But
It's overwhelming, honestly.
Right. And these are things you don't know that you don't know.
No,
Right. And that's why you have to have somebody reputable that knows the industry, because they're going to know these things to talk to you about.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And even if you hire a really experienced office manager, trust me, they don't even know half the stuff, like the intricacies of the stuff that you really have to be constantly looking at, So setting yourself up with that good expert team on the outside just helps you to take your practice and make it successful and safe.
100%. And as I say, and you're gonna evolve. Maybe who you were using for marketing, IT, any of that, it might change. You're growing, you're adding a location. That's part of it, but at least from the beginning, do your due diligence to find the right. I keep saying, I think you both of us are like IT, because I think that's the most sensitive part. But at least make sure you have a reputable one. And it might be in the beginning you get somebody and it's just not a good fit energy wise or whatever it may be. But at least make sure they know dentistry, because that really, really can affect you sadly, in a negative way if you don't have the right people on your team. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to Accelerate Your Dental Practice. To learn more about your hosts and explore consulting services tailored to your practice, visit affinitymanagement.co for Michelle Affato and zardentalconsulting.com for Malika Azargun. Be sure to follow, rate, and share the podcast. And join us next time for more tools, tips, and strategies to help you accelerate your dental practice.